June 14, 1966. Miami, Florida. 12:47 p.m. Robert Anderson takes his last known steps as himself. A construction site on Biscayne Boulevard. 8 stories of steel and concrete rising into the humid Florida sky. Lunch break is ending. Workers stub out cigarettes, crush paper bags, return to their stations. Robert Anderson, 32 years old, walks toward the temporary scaffolding. The foreman sees him. Waves. Robert waves back. 1 p.m. The work whistle blows. Robert Anderson is gone. His hard hat sits on a steel beam. His thermos, still warm, rests beside a half-eaten sandwich. 1 bite missing. His truck is in the parking lot, keys in the ignition. His wallet on the dashboard. His wedding ring left behind. No goodbye. No struggle. No blood. No body. Just gone. One coworker will later tell police, it was like he walked into thin air. For 58 years, Robert Anderson will be a ghost. A mystery. A man erased from existence. Until 2024, when a DNA match in Texas shatters everything. But the man they find, living under a different name in a different state, claims he has no idea who Robert Anderson is. How does a man vanish in broad daylight and reappear 6 decades later with no memory of his own name? Before we dive into this incredible story, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. What country are you in right now? I love seeing our global community come together over these stories. Now let's go back to 1966. Back to Miami. Back to the day Robert Anderson disappeared. Robert Eugene Anderson wasn't just a case number. He wasn't just a statistic in a missing persons database. He was a father. A husband. A United States Navy veteran who served his country during the Korean War. A skilled carpenter helping build Miami's post-war skyline, one beam at a time. Robert was born in 1934 in rural Georgia, a small town called Valdosta where everyone knew everyone, and a man's word was his bond. He grew up during the Great Depression, learned carpentry from his father, and developed a work ethic that would define his entire life. In 1952, at just 18 years old, Robert enlisted in the Navy. He served aboard the USS Essex, an aircraft carrier stationed in the Pacific. He saw combat. He saw friends die. But he came home in 1956, honorably discharged, with a chest full of medals he never talked about. That's who Robert was. Quiet, steady, reliable. He met Margaret Louise Hayes at a church social in 1957. She was a secretary at a law firm, beautiful and kind, with dark hair and a laugh that made Robert smile, something he didn't do often. They married 6 months later. By 1960, Robert and Margaret had moved to Miami, chasing the construction boom. Florida was exploding. High-rises, hotels, shopping centers, everyone needed skilled carpenters and Robert was one of the best. They bought a modest bungalow in Little Havana. Yellow paint. Palm tree in the front yard. Small but theirs. In 1960, their first daughter Karen was born. In 1962, Linda arrived. Robert Anderson was living the American dream. His coworkers called him Bobby. They said he was the guy you wanted on your crew, showed up early, stayed late, never complained. Didn't drink much. Didn't gamble. Didn't chase women. He went to work, came home to his family, and spent Sundays teaching his daughters to ride bikes and taking them fishing off the pier. Margaret would later tell investigators, he was the most predictable man I ever knew. He kissed me goodbye every morning at 6:45. He was home every night by 6:30. He never missed Sunday dinner. Not once. No enemies. No debts. No secrets. Or so everyone thought. In 1966, Robert was 32 years old. He had a good job, a beautiful family, and dreams of one day opening his own carpentry business. He had everything to live for. And absolutely no reason to disappear. Let me take you through Robert Anderson's last day as himself. Minute by minute. Because somewhere in these hours, something happened that would create a 58-year mystery. 6:15 a.m. The alarm clock rings in the Anderson home. Robert reaches over, silences it. Margaret is already awake, she always was. She heads to the kitchen. The smell of coffee fills the small house. Eggs sizzling in a cast-iron skillet. Toast browning in the oven. 6:30 a.m. Robert comes to the kitchen, freshly shaved, wearing his work clothes, denim jeans, a white t-shirt, steel-toed boots. He sits at the table. Margaret places his breakfast in front of him. They don't talk much. They've been married 9 years, comfortable in their silence. 6:45 a.m. Karen and Linda stumble into the kitchen, still in their pajamas. Robert kisses them both on the forehead. "Be good for your mama," he says. He always said that. 7 a.m. Robert grabs his metal lunchbox from the counter. Margaret packed it the night before: ham sandwich, an apple, a thermos of coffee. He kisses Margaret goodbye at the door. "See you tonight," she says. "See you tonight," he replies. He climbs into his 1963 Ford F-100 pickup truck. Powder blue, slightly rusted but reliable. The engine turns over. He backs out of the driveway. Margaret watches from the window until he turns the corner. She'll never see him again. 7:35 a.m. Robert arrives at the construction site on Biscayne Boulevard. A new high-rise going up, 15 stories when finished. Robert's crew is working on the 8th floor, framing the interior walls. The site is chaos. Welders throwing sparks. Concrete mixers grinding. Foremen shouting. Trucks delivering supplies. In 1966, construction sites didn't have the security they do now. Partially fenced, sure, but accessible from the street. No cameras. No security guards. Just workers and their tools. 9:30 a.m. Coffee break. Robert stands with his crew drinking coffee from his thermos. Coworker Jimmy Ramos will later tell police that Robert seemed normal, maybe a little tired, but normal. They talk about the Dolphins. About the heat. About nothing important. 12 p.m. Lunch whistle. Workers scatter. Some drive to nearby diners. Some walk to food trucks. Robert stays on site, he always does. Saves money that way. He sits on a stack of lumber in the shade. Opens his lunchbox. Ham sandwich. Apple. Thermos. 12:47 p.m. This is the last confirmed sighting. Foreman Michael Torres sees Robert walking toward the scaffolding on the north side of the site. Robert waves. Torres waves back. Just a regular wave, Torres will tell police. Nothing weird about it. 1 p.m. Work whistle blows. Michael Torres climbs to the 8th floor. He looks around. Robert Anderson is gone. His lunchbox sits on the lumber. The sandwich, one bite missing. The apple, untouched. The thermos still warm. But Robert? Vanished. 1:15 p.m. Foreman Torres walks the site. Calls Robert's name. Checks the floors above and below. Nothing. By 1:30 p.m. he's worried. Robert's not the type to wander off. 2 p.m. Torres checks Robert's truck in the parking lot. It's still there. Keys in the ignition. Wallet on the dashboard, $23 inside, driver's license, a photo of Margaret and the girls. 2:15 p.m. Torres calls the police. 4:15 p.m. Miami Police Department arrives. Detective Vincent Morales takes the lead, a 15-year veteran, seen it all, or so he thinks. First theory, workplace accident. Maybe Robert fell. Maybe he's trapped somewhere on the site. They search. Every floor. Every room. Every piece of scaffolding. The basement. The nearby lots. Empty buildings across the street. Nothing. No body. No blood. No sign of struggle. By 6 p.m. they bring in search dogs. German shepherds trained to track missing persons. They give the dogs Robert's hard hat to smell. The dogs pick up his scent immediately, track it across the site toward the street to the curb, and then the scent just stops. As if Robert Anderson evaporated. Or as if someone picked him up. Drove him away. 7 p.m. Detective Morales drives to the Anderson home. He knocks on the door. Margaret answers, confused. Robert should have been home an hour ago. Morales explains. Margaret's face goes white. No, she says. No, you don't understand. Robert wouldn't just leave. He wouldn't do that to us. Morales asks the questions he has to ask. Was Robert happy? Any marital problems? Financial troubles? Gambling debts? Affairs? Margaret's answers are consistent. No. 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 He kissed me goodbye this morning like he does every morning, she says, her voice breaking. He said, see you tonight. He wouldn't lie to me. By midnight the case shifts. Missing person becomes potential abduction. But there's no ransom call. No demands. No witnesses. Day 2. June 15, 1966. The Miami Herald runs the story, construction worker missing from work site. Tips start coming in. Someone saw a man matching Robert's description at a bus station. Someone else saw him hitchhiking on Highway 1. Both leads go nowhere. The FBI is contacted. Could this be a kidnapping? But kidnappers want money. Margaret Anderson doesn't have money. Robert's family in Georgia doesn't have money. So why take him? By hour 48, Detective Morales sits in his office, surrounded by notes that don't make sense. A man disappears in broad daylight from a busy construction site with dozens of workers nearby. No one sees anything. No one hears anything. His truck, his wallet, his wedding ring, all left behind. The search dogs lose his scent at the street. Morales writes in his case file, "This doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense." He has no idea that this case will haunt him for the rest of his career. That it will remain unsolved for 58 years. That the answer, when it finally comes, will be more tragic than any crime. Margaret Anderson becomes a widow without a funeral. A single mother without a divorce. Her husband is missing. Not dead. Not alive. Just gone. And that distinction destroys her. In 1966, you can't declare someone legally dead for 7 years. 7 years of limbo. 7 years of not knowing. 7 years of hope that curdles into agony. Margaret can't remarry, she's still legally married. She can't collect life insurance. There's no body. She can't sell the house. Robert's name is on the deed. She's trapped in bureaucratic purgatory, suspended between grief and hope, unable to move forward or let go. The first few months are chaos. The community rallies. Church groups organize search parties. Neighbors bring casseroles. Local businesses donate to a reward fund, $500 for information leading to Robert's whereabouts. But as summer turns to fall, the support fades. People have their own lives. Their own problems. Margaret is alone. She takes a second job, waitressing at night after her secretary worked during the day. She has to support 2 daughters by herself now. Karen is 6. Linda is 4. They keep asking the question that breaks Margaret's heart. When is Daddy coming home? At first Margaret says, "Soon, baby. Soon." Then she says, "I don't know." Eventually they stop asking. Margaret keeps Robert's belongings exactly where he left them. His work boots by the door. His flannel shirt on the back of the bedroom chair. His coffee cup in the cabinet, she can't bring herself to use it. Every year on June 14th, she places an ad in the Miami Herald. "Robert, if you're out there, please come home. We love you. We miss you. No questions asked." Margaret. She does this for 30 years. The girls grow up in the shadow of their father's disappearance. Karen, the older one, tries to be strong, becomes the little mother, helping Margaret with Linda, with chores, with bills. But inside she's terrified. She develops nightmares. She's afraid to let her mother out of her sight, convinced she'll disappear too. Linda, the younger one, barely remembers Robert. She has fragmented memories, his voice, his hands, the smell of sawdust. But mostly she just remembers the hole his absence created. As a teenager, Karen tells a school counselor, "I see him everywhere. Men at the grocery store. Men at the gas station. I'll see someone with his build, his hair color, and my heart stops. For a second I think, that's him. That's Daddy. And then I get closer and it's a stranger." Margaret Anderson dies in 2003 at age 71. Her obituary reads, "Preceded in death by her husband Robert Anderson, missing since 1966. She never knew what happened to him. She died in limbo." Detective Vincent Morales becomes obsessed with the Robert Anderson case. It's the one that doesn't make sense. The one that haunts him at night. The one that makes him question whether he's actually good at his job. Over the months and years that follow, Morales pursues every theory. Every possibility. Every wild idea. Theory 1. Amnesia and head injury. Maybe Robert had some kind of medical episode. A stroke. A seizure. A brain aneurysm. Maybe he wandered away disoriented and got hit by a car. Maybe he's lying in a hospital somewhere with no memory and no ID. Morales contacts every hospital in Florida, then Georgia, then Alabama, Louisiana, Texas. He sends Robert's photo, description, dental records. Nothing. Dead end. Theory 2. Organized crime. Miami in the 1960s is a playground for the mob. Construction sites are sometimes fronts for money laundering. Maybe Robert saw something he shouldn't have. Maybe he witnessed a payoff. Maybe someone silenced him. The FBI investigates. They dig into the construction company's finances. Interview known associates of Miami crime families. No connection to Robert Anderson. No evidence he was involved in or witnessed anything criminal. Dead end. Theory 3. Secret double life. Maybe Robert wasn't the perfect husband Margaret thought he was. Maybe he had gambling debts. An affair. A hidden past catching up to him. Maybe he staged his own disappearance. Morales digs deeper. Investigates Robert's finances. Nothing unusual. Interviews his Navy buddies. No secrets. Checks for any aliases, hidden bank accounts, property under different names. Robert Anderson was exactly who he appeared to be. A regular guy. A good father. A faithful husband. Dead end. Theory 4. Random abduction. Maybe Robert was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe someone grabbed him off the street. A predator. A random act of violence. But there's no similar cases. No pattern. No other construction workers disappearing. No bodies turning up that match Robert's description. Dead end. Theory 5. Voluntary disappearance with planned memory loss. Some people can't handle the pressure of life. Maybe Robert wanted out. Maybe he faked amnesia and started over somewhere else. But psychologists who evaluate the case say it's virtually impossible. Robert showed no signs of depression, anxiety, or dissociation. His life was stable. His family was happy. Dead end. Over the years, tips come in. Sightings. 1972. Robert Anderson spotted in Houston, Texas. Morales flies there personally. It's not him. 1978. Robert Anderson seen in San Diego, California. Local police investigate. Not him. 1985. Robert Anderson allegedly living in Brooklyn, New York. Again, not him. Each false lead breaks Margaret's heart a little more. In 1992, Detective Morales retires. He visits Margaret one last time. Sits in her living room, the same room where he first told her Robert was missing 26 years earlier. "I'm sorry," he says, tears in his eyes. "I failed you. I failed Robert. I don't know what happened to your husband, and I'm afraid we'll never know." Margaret takes his hand. "You tried. That's all anyone can do." The case file goes into storage. Cold case. Unsolved. Just another mystery. The 1990s arrive. Then the 2000s. Then the 2010s. Robert Anderson becomes a footnote. A ghost story. One of those tragic unsolved mysteries that true crime enthusiasts discuss on internet forums. Margaret Anderson dies in 2003. She's buried in Miami. Her headstone reads, Margaret Louise Anderson, 1932 to 2003. Beloved mother. Forever waiting. Karen and Linda inherit the mystery. They're in their 40s now. Middle-aged women who barely remember their father but have spent their entire lives searching for him. Technology advances. DNA databases. Digital records. Cold case units with new resources. But the Robert Anderson case remains untouched. There's no physical evidence to process. No DNA to test. No body to examine. No fingerprints to run through new systems. The case is essentially frozen in 1966. 2010, Karen creates a Facebook page. Help find Robert Anderson, missing since 1966. She uploads photos of her father. Shares the story. Asks for tips. The page gets 200 followers. A few messages. I think I saw him in Reno. My grandfather knew a Robert Anderson. Have you tried psychics? All dead ends. 2015. A local Miami journalist writes an article for the 49th anniversary of Robert's disappearance. Where is Robert Anderson? Nearly 50 years later, family still searching. The article circulates. Gets shared on Reddit. Creates a brief spark of interest. Then fades. 2020. Karen is 58 years old. Linda is 56. They've now spent more of their lives without their father than with him. They've given up hope of finding him alive. At this point, they just want closure. They want to know what happened. They want to bury him. To say goodbye properly. Karen tells a documentarian working on Florida cold cases, I don't need him to be alive. I just need to know. Did someone hurt him? Did he have an accident? Is he buried somewhere? I just want to lay flowers on a grave. That's all. Just a place to say goodbye. The documentarian includes her story in a 30-minute episode. It airs on a small streaming platform. A few thousand people watch it. Then the world moves on. By 2023, the Robert Anderson case is 57 years old. Karen and Linda assume they'll die without answers just like their mother did. They assume the mystery will die with them. They're wrong. January 17, 2024. Detective Sarah Chen sits at her desk in the Miami Cold Case Unit. She's 34 years old, passionate about unsolved cases, and obsessed with bringing closure to families. Her phone rings. Miami PD Detective Chen. Detective Chen, this is Patricia Morrison from GeneTrack Genealogy Services. We work with law enforcement and social services to help identify unidentified persons using DNA databases. Chen sits up straighter. This is how cold cases get solved now. Genealogy, genetic family trees, DNA. I'm listening. We have a match that might interest you. A man currently living in an assisted living facility in Austin, Texas. He's been suffering from severe amnesia for over 50 years. He doesn't know who he is. He submitted his DNA to our database hoping to find family. And we got a familial match to two women in Florida, Karen and Linda Anderson. According to our research, they're the daughters of a missing person, Robert Anderson. Missing since. Patricia pauses, checking her notes. June 14, 1966. Detective Chen's heart stops. That's 58 years ago. You're saying you think this man in Texas is Robert Anderson? I'm saying the DNA indicates he's closely related to Robert Anderson's daughters. And given the circumstances, his age, his amnesia, the timeline, it's worth investigating. Chen pulls the file. It's yellowed with age, thick with decades of dead-end reports. She opens it. Sees Robert's photo from 1966. A young man with dark hair and steady eyes. Send me everything you have. 2 days later, Chen has the Texas facility's records. Medical files. Photos of the man currently living there under the name James Fitzgerald. She runs the 1966 photo of Robert Anderson through facial recognition software alongside the current photo of James Fitzgerald. 94% match. It's him. Robert Anderson is alive. February 3, 2024. Detective Chen flies to Austin. The Shady Oaks Assisted Living Facility is quiet. Pleasant. Not a bad place to spend your final years. She meets with the director. Reviews the file on James Fitzgerald. Admitted in 1973. Found wandering in rural Texas in 1968 with no identification, no memory, severe head trauma. Estimated age, early 30s. Given the name James Fitzgerald by social workers. A placeholder name until someone claimed him. No one ever did. He spent the 1970s and 80s working odd jobs. Dishwasher. Janitor. Warehouse worker. Never caused trouble. Never had family. Never married. Lived quietly, alone, a man with no past. By the 2000s, his health was declining. Social services placed him in assisted care. He's 90 years old now. Chen asks to meet him. They bring her to the common room. An old man sits in a wheelchair by the window, watching birds at a feeder outside. Mr. Fitzgerald? He turns. His face is deeply lined, weathered by 9 decades of life. But the bone structure, the eyes. Chen sees Robert Anderson in this elderly stranger. Hello, he says politely. Chen sits down. Shows him the photos. Margaret, Karen, Linda. The house in Miami. The construction site. Do you recognize any of these people? These places? James Fitzgerald, Robert Anderson, studies them carefully. Then he looks up, his eyes apologetic. I'm sorry. I wish I could remember. But I don't know these people. His voice is kind, gentle, completely sincere. Robert Anderson has no idea who Robert Anderson is. So what happened? How does a man disappear and reappear 1,200 miles away with no memory of his entire life? Detective Chen works with medical professionals in Texas to piece together the most likely scenario. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a neurologist specializing in memory disorders, reviews James Fitzgerald's medical history. CT scans from the 1990s. MRI results from the 2000s. Neurological evaluations spanning decades. The evidence is clear: severe traumatic brain injury. Old skull fracture visible on scans, happened decades ago, healed incorrectly. Significant damage to the hippocampus and frontal lobes, the parts of the brain responsible for memory formation and identity. Dr. Rodriguez explains, this wasn't a minor concussion. This was catastrophic trauma. The kind of injury that erases everything: who you are, where you come from, your entire personal history. It's called severe retrograde amnesia. Can someone recover from that? In some cases, yes. Fragments might come back. But in cases this severe, especially without immediate medical intervention, the memories are often gone forever. The neural pathways are destroyed. Detective Chen creates a timeline, a reconstruction, based on evidence, medical analysis, and the 13 missing minutes. June 14, 1966. 12:47 p.m. Robert Anderson walks toward the scaffolding on the north side of the construction site. Maybe he's going back to work early. Maybe he's checking something. Maybe he's taking a shortcut. Something happens. Maybe falling debris strikes him. Construction sites are dangerous. Accidents happen constantly. Maybe he's hit by a delivery truck backing up. Maybe he steps into the street and a car clips him. Whatever it is, it causes massive head trauma. Robert collapses. Blood pooling. Skull fractured. But here's the thing. In 1966, construction sites are chaotic, loud, busy. Someone might not notice immediately. And if Robert stumbles into an alley behind a dumpster into a blind spot, he could lie there for minutes, even hours. When he wakes up, disoriented, confused, in agonizing pain, he has no idea who he is. No memory of Margaret, of Karen, of Linda, of Miami, of his own name. He wanders. Instinct takes over. He needs to get away from the noise, the chaos. He stumbles west. Maybe someone picks him up. A trucker, a stranger, thinks he's drunk or homeless and drives him somewhere. Over days, weeks, maybe months, Robert Anderson, now a nameless man with no identity, drifts westward. By 1968, he ends up in rural Texas. He's found wandering by local police. They take him to a hospital. The doctors ask, "What's your name?" He doesn't know. "Where are you from?" He doesn't know. "Does anyone know you're missing?" He doesn't know. In 1968, there's no national missing persons database. No internet. No way to connect a nameless man in Texas to a missing person report in Florida. So they give him a name. James Fitzgerald. They give him a social security number. They release him. And Robert Anderson, now James Fitzgerald, begins a new life with no memory of his old one. For 56 years he lives as a ghost of himself. While Margaret places newspaper ads in Miami, Robert works in a Texas warehouse, unaware he has a family searching for him. While Karen and Linda grow up fatherless, Robert eats dinner alone in a studio apartment, never knowing he has daughters. The cruelest irony imaginable. 2 lives. Same man. Both real. Both true. Separated by 1,200 miles and a head injury that erased everything. March 12, 2024. Karen Anderson, now Karen Mitchell, and Linda Anderson, now Linda Hayes, board a flight to Austin, Texas. They're 62 and 60 years old respectively. Gray-haired. Worn down by decades of searching, hoping, grieving. Detective Chin meets them at the airport. "I need you to understand," Chin says gently. "He doesn't remember. He's a very kind man. Very polite. But he won't know you. He won't recognize you. You need to be prepared for that." Karen nods. She's been preparing for this moment her entire life, just not this version of it. They drive to Shady Oaks Assisted Living. The director leads them to the common room. James Fitzgerald, Robert Anderson, sits in his wheelchair by the window. Chin whispers, "That's him." Karen and Linda freeze. They haven't seen their father since 1966. They were children then. He was 32. Young. Strong. Dark-haired. The man before them is 90 years old. Frail. White-haired. Fragile. But Linda whispers, "That's him. I see it. His eyes. That's Daddy." They approach slowly. Karen's hands are shaking. "Mr. Fitzgerald?" Chin says. "You have visitors." Robert turns. Smiles politely, the way you smile at strangers. Karen sits down. Takes his hand. It's cold. Thin. "Hi," she says, her voice breaking. "My name is Karen. This is my sister Linda." "Hello," Robert says. "It's nice to meet you." Karen opens a photo album. Old pictures. Margaret smiling on her wedding day. Robert holding baby Karen in the hospital. Family dinners. Christmas mornings. "This is you," Karen says, pointing. "This is our mother. Margaret. These are us. We're your daughters." Robert studies the photos carefully. Lingers on each one. Minutes pass. Finally he looks up. His eyes are wet. "I'm so sorry," he whispers. "I wish I could remember. I wish I knew you. But I don't. These people, I don't know them." Linda starts crying. Karen squeezes his hand. "It's okay. We know. We understand." They spend 3 hours with him. He tells them about his life as James Fitzgerald. He likes crossword puzzles. He watches old westerns. John Wayne is his favorite. He prefers vanilla ice cream to chocolate. He used to have a cat named Smokey. He's kind, gentle, polite. But he's not their father. Not really. The man who kissed them goodbye in 1966, the man who called them baby and taught them to ride bikes, is gone. This is a stranger wearing their father's face. When they leave, Karen tells Detective Chin, "We found him. But we also lost him. He's been gone for 58 years. And in a way he's still gone." August 3, 2024. James Fitzgerald, Robert Eugene Anderson, dies peacefully in his sleep at Shady Oaks Assisted Living. Natural causes. Heart failure. He was 90 years old. Karen and Linda are notified immediately. They fly to Austin for the funeral. For the first time in 58 years, Robert Anderson has a funeral. Karen and Linda bury him under his real name. The headstone reads, Robert Eugene Anderson, 1934 to 2024. Beloved husband, father, veteran. Lost but found. Rest in peace. The case is officially closed. Detective Sarah Chin files her final report. After extensive investigation and DNA confirmation, missing person Robert Eugene Anderson has been located and identified. Subject was living in Austin, Texas under the assumed name James Fitzgerald due to severe traumatic amnesia resulting from unknown head injury sustained on or around June 14, 1966. Subject had no memory of his prior identity or family. Subject died of natural causes on August 3, 2024. Case status resolved. But so many questions remain unanswered. What exactly caused Robert's head injury? Was it an accident? Falling debris? A hit and run? An assault? No one knows. How did Robert travel from Miami to Texas with no money, no memory, no identification? Did someone help him? Drive him? Or did he wander for months? Why didn't anyone in Texas recognize him from missing person reports? Were those reports not distributed nationally? Did Robert's appearance change after the injury? How did he survive those first days, weeks, months after losing his memory? How did he find food? Shelter? What happened during those 13 minutes at the construction site? What did Robert see? What did he do? Where exactly did the injury occur? We'll never know. The witnesses are dead. The construction site was demolished in the 1980s. Any physical evidence is long gone. All we have are fragments. Pieces. A partial story with missing chapters. Robert Anderson's case becomes a teaching moment for law enforcement nationwide. A reminder that not all missing persons cases involve foul play. Sometimes the truth is stranger and sadder than any crime. Sometimes people aren't taken. They're lost. Lost to themselves. Karen and Linda established the Robert Anderson Memorial Fund, a small charity that supports amnesia research and helps families of missing persons access genetic genealogy services. It's not closure. Not really. But it's something. Let's zoom out for a moment. Let's think about what this case really means. Robert Anderson's story isn't about a crime. It's about identity. Memory. What makes us who we are? Without memory, was Robert still Robert? Or did he become James Fitzgerald? Philosophers call this the continuity of self problem. If you lose all memory of who you were, are you still the same person? Or are you someone new? For 56 years, two versions of Robert Anderson existed simultaneously. The missing man, frozen in time in 1966, preserved in photographs and memories, mourned by his family. And the living ghost, James Fitzgerald, building a quiet life in Texas, unaware he was someone else. Which one was real? Both. Neither. It depends on how you define real. What this case really highlights is the fragility of identity in an era before digital fingerprints. One moment of trauma, one head injury, one car accident, one fall, and a person's entire existence could be erased. No DNA databases. No facial recognition. No national missing persons networks. Just paper files and local police stations that never connected. Robert Anderson's family mourned a man who was alive. Robert Anderson lived a life disconnected from his own history. The tragedy isn't that he disappeared. The tragedy is that he was findable, he was living openly, working jobs, interacting with society, but the systems didn't exist to connect him to the people searching for him. Modern technology finally solved what decades of detective work couldn't. A simple DNA test, something Robert did himself, hoping to find family, cracked a 58-year mystery in minutes. But technology can't give back lost time. Can't restore stolen memories. Can't undo 58 years of absence. Margaret never got to say goodbye. Karen and Linda never got their father back. Robert never got to know he was loved, searched for, missed desperately. And that's the haunting question this case leaves us with. How many other James Fitzgeralds are out there? How many people are living under different names, suffering from amnesia, unaware that someone is searching for them? How many families are still waiting for answers that might be one DNA test away? The technology exists now. The databases exist now. But for Robert Anderson and his family, it came 58 years too late. Robert Eugene Anderson's case is closed. He was found. He lived. He died peacefully.